morning everyone, and welcome to Bonnie's Best Creations. And here we go. It's days before Christmas, and I've got lots to do. Things have changed, but we're just going to keep on going. I'm going to keep on doing the things I've always done, and whatever happens this Christmas, it happens, right? So let's get going. Have you watched Scrooge yet this year? I have. And if you remember in the Christmas Carol, Tiny Tim and his family were always saying, "Oh, we can hear the pudding singing in the pot." Well, today I'm making carrot pudding. Yes, carrot pudding. You know what? My grandma, she lived through a very difficult time in her life. She knew what going without was like, and they used different ingredients in that time just because they couldn't get access to all that we have today. So instead of a plum pudding, this is a carrot pudding. Yes, a steamed carrot pudding. So come on into my kitchen, and I'm going to walk you through this delectable pudding that you won't even believe what's in it. But my, oh my, it is delicious. So let's go. All right, so here we go. So I've got most of my ingredients all laid out. And like I said, this is a carrot pudding. And I guess a lot like a bread pudding, even though I don't like a bread pudding too much. A lot of people do. In this recipe, you'll never know what's in it unless you tell somebody. So what I've done is I've grated a cup of carrots, because this is carrot pudding. And now what I'm going to do is and I'm going to put that in a big mixing bowl. And to that I have 1 cup of packed bread crumbs. And it's pretty chunky. If you want to go smaller, but I've just done it chunky, and I've packed that in there. So I'm just going to put that in there. All right. And to that, I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of margarine. Just use what you have. All right. I'm cooking with you like I would be cooking for myself. So I'm just doing this au naturel. Okay, to that big bowl, I'm going to add 1 cup of sugar. You know, back in the day, they didn't have all these fancy kitchens like we have. My grandma and granddad never even had their own home. They always leased or rented or sublet. So, and I have no idea what her childhood was like. All right, so there we go. In that, I have the bread, carrots, butter, and sugar. And now to that, I'm going to add whatever spices you like. I love cinnamon. So about a teaspoon about a teaspoon or so of cinnamon. If you want to use all cinnamon, you can. But I'm going to add, and I'm just going to I'm just measuring. I'm just shaking it in there so that it looks there. A bit of ginger. Bit of cloves. All right. Now, what we're going to do is to that, I'm adding 1 egg. And I am going to use the Old Faithful hands. Just mix that. So all that is okay. So next what I'm going to do, well, this also calls for 1 cup of grated potato. And probably this is the most consuming part of this pudding, is the grating of your carrots and your potato. And yes, I think the bread and the potato acts as a binding agent. I'm not sure if they didn't have access to a lot of flour. I don't know. All I know is that, you know, in pioneer days and that, they used to just make do with whatever they had to make something delicious. And as strange as this is, you will never know that any of this is in here. But you know what? Isn't it healthy? Then you can eat more shortbread, pie, whatever you'd like. So that should be about a cup. My mom, when she taught me to do this, she sat me she was very sick. My mom died very young, but she wasn't even 65 yet, and she passed away with cancer. But that last Christmas, she sat me down and she said, as sick as she was, and said, Bonnie, you gotta learn to make this. You gotta carry this on. So this is how I learned, and I'm telling you, there wasn't a lot of measuring. She just did as best as she could. So with this potato, not yet, I'm going to put this in a bowl, because I'll show you what I'm gonna do with that. All right, so now I have a mixture of raisins and cherries, glazed cherries, to equal to about 1.5 cups to 1 cup. You can use, I've used dates before. You can use cranberry, currants, whatever mix of fruit you want. And what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit of flour on that and just mix that. That's so that when it cooks, the fruit doesn't sink to the bottom. And I'm going to put that in there. All right, now, the thing to do last at the very end is I have my potato. And at the very end, what I'm going to do is add 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Alright, so there's my potato with my baking soda. Have to go, I'm baking bread at the same time. So that's what the buzzer. My kitchen is buzzing at Christmas time. And that's exactly the way I like it. Alright, I'm not going to mix that yet. I have prepared, I'm going to prepare these two bowls. These puddings are going to be steamed, so you need a container or a bowl that is microwavable. So I'm using a Corningware, and then I have an old pot here that I'm going to use. And what I'm going to do, just with I'm going to grease this bowl, both my bowls. You can do whatever size you want, as long as it will fit into your pot. And in a minute I'll show you the pot that this is going to go into. So I'm just going to grease that really well. And then what I'm going to do is mix that potato that has the baking soda okay, and I'm going to put half in there. Okay, to my two pots here are bowls of pudding that's ready. I'm going to put a layer of parchment paper and then a layer of foil. I want to seal that in as best as I can. And then what I'm going to do is just put an elastic there to hold that there. You'll notice I switched to a smaller bowl. I just wanted I wanted a bigger one and a smaller one, so that's why I did that. You could do 3 small bowls, you could do 1 huge bowl. It's whatever you would want. All right, so I have a pot here. It's an old, it's a pasta pot or a stock pot. And it actually has a strainer that fits on there, I guess, to drain your pasta. So I'm using that. You can use whatever you have. As long as the bottom of your pot with your pudding in it isn't sitting on the very bottom. You could turn a bowl upside down, or I've used canning jar lids before. As long as it's not touching the bottom to crack it. So what I'm going to do is I filled it with water so that there's just a little bit of water at the bottom of my pot. I'm going to put the lid on it and it steams. Yep, for about 3 hours. Just keep checking that there's enough water in there, because the steam is what's doing the cooking. So we will be back when it is done. Okay, I'm going to keep checking this throughout the 3 hours, and I'm just going to keep checking to make, oh boy, I just got a facial with the steam. Ooh. Anyway, I'm just going to always make sure that I can see water at the bottom of that pot, and keep going. You know, the best part about this is that this is on top of the stove, and if you're like me, you can do multiple things. I've just finished baking bread, or if you want to do cookies, you've got your oven all free to do that. And so steaming, yeah, it takes a long time, but at least if you want to take a nap, whatever you want to do, it's your kitchen. And so I'm going to keep on checking that, and meanwhile I've got dishes to do, toilets to clean, and whatever. So lots to do. Christmas is coming, but I'm cooking a figgy pudding. All right, my first pudding is done, and it's nice and moist and smells delicious. And this pudding you can make ahead of time and keep it in the fridge. You can freeze it, and when you're ready to serve it, bring it out and heat it up. You can use your microwave or put it in the oven just to warm it up, and then serve it out into individual bowls. I'm not going to cut into this, I have to save it for Christmas. But then you can make your favorite sauce. My mom, our tradition is a custard sauce, and this is made, the instructions are on the back. You buy it in powder form, and it custard and carrot pudding or plum pudding is delicious. You can also make, there's different people have different things, different traditions of what they did with their plum pudding, carrot pudding, figgy pudding, whatever you want to call it. And some people love a butterscotch sauce or a caramel sauce. If you're daring, rum sauce. And there is one individual in my home, even though I would make, I don't know how many sauces to please everyone, he insisted that I make lemon sauce. But this year, we're cutting back. Usually I double this recipe because I have such a big crowd, but this year will be different. So I've just made one recipe. So there you go. Bring us a figgy pudding and bring it right here. So it didn't take long. It didn't, I guess it's the cooking, but if you made a fruit cake, that takes hours in the oven. It can, and but give this a try. I sure hope that you've enjoyed all the recipes I've shared with you. Please subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell so that when I put out new recipes and different things, that you won't miss out. And so from my house to yours, have a very, very Merry Christmas, and God bless. Be safe, and see you soon.